We've been doing this now with some Exxon overcharge funds that then Governor Kerry helped us to get to work with about 50 farmers here in eastern Nebraska. And we do a very participatory, almost farming systems approach, similar to what has been developed in the international agriculture scene, where we sit with farmers and talk about what they see as burning questions. What is the most important question to them at this moment? What is a big cost that they think they could reduce? One of the big ones is nitrogen, of course.
Sure.
So we've sat with farmers, we've gone out with a probe unit into their fields with farmers, sampled together, taken soil samples, sent these into the laboratory, brought the results back to the farmer. We've, again, sat down at the table, looked at the results, come up with what the farmer would consider the most logical, least cost strategy as far as nitrogen on that field for next summer to grow corn or grain sorghum. Then we've often taken that same rate, say it's 100 pounds, which is probably less than what the farmer might have come up with just guessing or going to other sources of information, but probably less if the yield goal is realistic, if all sources of nitrogen are taken into account, what's in the soil, what's going to come from the rainfall, what might be there from a previous legume crop or wherever. We take that fairly conservative already application rate, cut that in half to 50 pounds, and also put on a zero treatment so we can see response. And we've looked at this in about 20 different farms for the last, this is the third year in a row now, and found that after legumes, particularly alfalfa, but also sweet clover, soybeans, other leguminous crops, we found very little response to nitrogen. In the continuous corn or continuous grain sorghum fields, we have seen the classical quadratic type response to nitrogen, and perhaps have been able to push the level back to a rational, non-potentially contaminating level that helps the farmer make money and not contribute anything to the groundwater nitrate problem. But the other has been very exciting. We've seen that there in fact is not nearly as much response as we thought there would be, especially in these rotations. Now, I mentioned this is a participatory approach. We've done these trials with farmers. They've observed them. They run the trials. They feel ownership of the trial. It's not something that you're laying on me. It's something that I want to do because I'm interested in saving money and interested in some of these concerns. We have helped at harvest with a weigh wagon, helped to weigh the combine results of these long plots. We've left a copy of the results with the farmer so that he or she can work with those results, look at them. We've also brought them back and analyzed them. Then we've sent the results back out to the farmers with no interpretation. We're saying,
this is it.
Just the facts. Here's the data. You interpret it. What do you think? What will you do next year based on this? Then we also had a series of meetings, 8 meetings in March in 8 different counties where farmers came together. We presented these results again. We showed how the treatments were derived, how the farmers decided what they wanted to do, what the results were at the end of the season. Here were the curves, here were the results. Then we sat back and stopped.
And you didn't give advice or interpretation? Or
No. We said, what do you think about this? The rooms were quiet for a while because people, just as in our classrooms, are used to being spoon-fed. They're used to being told the answers. In this case, people were forced to figure out the answers. They were asked to process all that information, to put it into their experience bank, crank it around a few times in their own personal computer, and come out with a conclusion. Well, based on that evidence, here's what I think I should do next year. Then we would ask the next farmer in the next chair, well, do you agree with that or not? What do you think? If this were your farm, what would you do? And then we'd get a very healthy debate going. We became resource people there, catalysts of the process, as well as resource people to help perhaps explain from a basic nutrient cycling standpoint why this is happening if we were asked. But we were not giving the solutions. We were facilitating the learning process. And we're very excited about that. And we're going to do much more of that.
I think it's exciting to hear about it. And come back again to the fact that you talk not only about working interdepartmentally here at the university, but intergroup with farmers. It seems like more and more what you're doing involves working together.
No question about it. We're all in this industry together. All of our success depends on the other players as well. It's like a team sport, really. If we don't work together, if we're aiming at different goal lines or baskets or goals, whatever, we're probably not going to get there very fast, or we're going to be working at cross purposes. But if we do share ideas, share meaning, work together, I think there's a much better chance of getting where we're going. And it really can be a win-win situation. And we could talk about other issues like global competitiveness and things, but let's just talk about sustainable agriculture here in Nebraska.
All right.
I think we have to work together. We have no choice, really. The success is going to be determined to some degree by the weakest links and us all bringing each other along together. This is why we're kind of rethinking the whole information paradigm as well. If you think of a library, if the library were the source of information and you sent books out from your national facility to the branch libraries, they loaned them out to people. And this were always a one-way flow, and there were nothing new coming in to that pipeline. This would become a neat historical resource, but a very sterile activity very quickly.
Very stagnant.
Okay, we've essentially done this same thing, I think, in our minds as well as in practice in agriculture. We have considered the researcher to be the guru, the source of ideas, the source of great results and articles in an agronomy journal and so on, who has passed that information to the extension person, who has then passed that information to the farmer. And everyone has wondered in the whole chain why it doesn't always work, why people aren't just delighted to get all this great stuff at the other end of the pipeline. We're looking at now in a much more networking, participatory kind of way, where everyone in this process, the producer, the farmer, the rancher, the people in the ag industry, people in the universities, both in research and extension, nonprofit groups, these people are all players or actors on the same stage. They all have something to learn from the others. They also have something to contribute. So when every person in this entire milieu becomes both a generator, a developer of information, and a user of information, and there is mutual respect among these players, we get into a very exciting kind of dynamic, a very exciting situation where we obviously put in credibility checks just as we do in our scientific journals. We don't just write absolute garbage and automatically put it on the printed page, hopefully. But we develop these same kinds of credibility checks, these same kinds of screens or sieves, if you like, to make sure things are real. But then you get this into a network kind of mode where everyone is learning from everybody else, using stuff from this network, contributing things back onto this network. We can multiply tremendously our information resources, and we're then able to fine-tune what we need to do on this field this year, because we have much more information and more relevant information if we can figure out how to access it.
Yes, yes, the compiling of it and then the finding it again is an entirely different problem.